So, we're here. We're live. We'll wait a couple more minutes for people. I can talk to you about all of my late night hours, tears, sweat that went into the OpenAI API being incredibly inconsistent and annoying in every possible way. And the reason Bradley, it was breaking on Bradley, was nothing we did. It was the 4.0 model from OpenAI has basically been shunned, right? They're going to get rid of it. So now 4.1 is what you want, but then there's differences in the 4.1 model. And really, they're messing up all the API stuff because they're ultimately trying to get 5.1 out on the AI or on the API. So many freaking AI words. API. They're trying to get 5.1 on the API, and then that will hopefully open up the doors to unlimited context, is what I'm hearing. It's like a rumor, but if you have an agentic AI call, it can just keep going, right? It doesn't have to stop, I guess. So you can essentially have unlimited, even before it goes drifting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's exactly what they're saying. It's whether it's real or not, I'm not sure, but
I mean, they're going to have to retool the content Maxima then, if they completely tear it apart.
Yeah, arguably, this is going to be the tricky part about anybody doing any type of vibe coding, AI-powered software. Right now, we're in such a gold rush. These models are changing so fast. The rules are changing. As you know, Rob, some of the calls change overnight. 1 second, you're supposed to use max token, and the next second, you're supposed to use like max token best or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not the developer, but they are constantly changing the variables, and to get consistency is a huge nightmare. So yeah, we were working with Bradley Benner from Semantic Mastery last week. We were getting some real random outputs, and his were not even working at all. And I was like, well, we haven't changed anything, and it works for me. I don't know. But then come to find out, they completely retooled 4.0, which is what was powering Maxima bots, and no wonder stuff doesn't work, because they change the whole foundation and, the building crumbles, right? So every time we're going to be patching and that sort of stuff. Ultimately, I think in the long run, Rob, you know this, I know this, we'll probably get information out of all of these models, right? And then build our own. Because I think the only way you can truly control something is to have your own local run model that's not going to change and drift on you, because otherwise how are you supposed to provide that consistent customer experience and this and that? And then you and I can control when we update it, when things get outdated or a little stale or whatever, and we're not dependent on anybody else. We're no longer standing on the giant's shoulders. And I do think that's where a lot of the world's going to go, especially in some of these industries and niches like, legal, financial, anything that has like a compliance department, or even medical. Like, I can't imagine, yes, there's going to be cloud, and yes, there's going to be in all of these industries, but for certain things, very private things, those are going to be the offline models. Those are going to be local computers in people's offices that run specific tasks, because it's too dangerous to have that computer connected to the internet, because somebody can grab your stuff then. So you'll generate stuff on that machine, but no one will be able to get to your generator, because your generator will be like the brain part of the organization, and it's physically detached from the digital world. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see these developments and see people trying to keep up with it. And even this whole vibe coding thing, I think what's funny about it, I see every single person, and we're a little guilty of it here too, but in totally different ways. Everybody's just trying to do everything now on a dashboard, right? All of these other AI groups and conferences and founders, it's like, oh, well, Nano Banana's out, or oh, VO3's out, or oh, Sora 2's out. Any new API that comes out, they're putting into like a dashboard type interface and building like a power tool for themselves so that they don't have to go log into every service. And then they're trying to sell this to other people. And ultimately, I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made that way, especially in these like super niche softwares, kind of like what you and I are doing here, Rob. But I always tell people our big competitive advantage is everybody else is building these bot libraries like me, hundreds, thousands of bots, but they don't have the training data and they don't have that figured out. And that is where we're just going to continue to blow people out of the water. And our bots will continue to do so much better until they start to attack that. And the reason people don't want to attack that is what you and I know. It's a lot of freaking work. It's hard work to farm, organize, reformat, optimize, chunk, right? All of your data into a way that then AI can take it and run with it. Like that's just, it's too much work for most people. It'll never work for most people. So they need what we do here at Content Maxima to get a starting point so that they don't have to waste their time on how their industry works and the services they provide and all that stuff. And then they can just give a little bit of the customization, the personalization data about their business, you know, the name, address, phone number, all that stuff, the company dog that greets you when you come in, whatever you want to put in. But then the core gets customized to your business, and you know it's a great core because it's based off of the entire market's data, not you. You're just associating yourself to the exact blueprint that the market already has established. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just attaching you to what's already out there. And that's why it works so well, because the internet rewards structure and it doesn't care about effort. It needs to be able to identify you as authoritative. It's not really truly going to read and understand everything you're doing. It just has to see the right patterns, and then you get ranked, recommended, all that stuff. Did you see those links I sent you earlier too, Rob? Matt Diggity put out a study. Did you happen to see that?
I saw you sent it. I didn't. I saw he posted, but I haven't read it. Okay.
I just came across, obviously I like to read his stuff because I know he does a lot of testing in the SEO world, but let me read a couple things here. So SE Ranking analyzed 129,000 domains, 216,000 pages to figure out exactly what gets cited in AI. So he talks about like domain trust score and however that's calculated. He talks about having an answer, like a self-contained answer box way up top at the top of your page, right? So the idea is to instantly answer the user's query, or, you know, spill the candy in the lobby, almost saying like, hey, this is the best software of all the softwares we, you know, compared on this page. Like instantly give away the answer, instantly give away the value. So it's the very first thing they see, so they don't go anywhere else. And then because of that, not only will the user get what they're after, but the bots and AI scrapers and web scrapers and search engines and everything will take that information and serve it in their snippets and recommendations and overviews and all the stuff that's starting to be implemented across softwares and stuff. Because obviously Google, if you're using Chrome now, you have what? Gemini and Chrome. Like everybody is infiltrating everywhere. And so you're going to want to be recommended by AI because that AI is going to be integrated everywhere, and it itself will become one of the most important channels because it won't matter what the customer's doing or where they are or where they're physically located in the world. If you are being recommended in AI, you know, it's the whole new rage. And this is why everybody's obsessed with the AI SEO. And there's 100 other terms going out right now. The generative, engine optimization, what is it? Geo. And then there's all these acronyms, right? But it's all the same stuff. It's just being found by any of these AIs and scrapers. So ChatGPT's top 1,000 most cited pages says that 60%, so 60% of pages that were the most cited pages were published or created within the last 2 years. So 82% of cited pages were updated in 2025. So we have always known there's a freshness factor to content. So having fresher pages is obviously important to the AI as well as the search engines, as well as like learning, because these things are continuously on auto learn, auto ML, auto machine learning. Wikipedia, we've known that for years. Wikipedia is still incredibly important, making up for 3 to 5% of all of ChatGPT's citations and up to 13% of the citations in recent months. Reddit, we know, got a huge boost, sweetheart deal with Google, and they account for 10% of the citations. So a lot of the rumors and things that have been going around out there are true, obviously. Like Reddit's a very favorable place to list your brand right now or get it mentioned. And then here's a really fascinating thing, and the final thing on this post. It says that sites under 190,000 monthly visitors cluster in the same citation range regardless of traffic volume. So a site with 20 visitors performs similarly to one with 20,000 visitors. But once you cross that 190,000 visitors a month, that's like the ceiling. Once you get past that, then your citation rate jumps incredibly. So it's almost like you're playing a different game at that point. So you have to have that level of traffic. You got to break that ceiling to truly dominate, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So basically which is weird to me. I mean, I know how spammed Wikipedia is. So it's funny that all these things take Wikipedia as gold. And then I also know how jacked up Reddit is, and they take that as gold as well, which is funny to me.
Yeah, like what's your standard?
It opens up huge ways to, I would say, manipulate, obviously. But then what that tells me, too, is they're factoring in, like you said, if you go from 0 to 190, you're in the same bucket. As soon as you do the 190,000 traffic, then they trust you more just because there's more eyeballs coming on you, effectively. That's how I boil that down as far as the key takeaways, you know what I mean? Like, they have a traffic threshold and a freshness, as you said, but.
Yeah, it's just nice to hear somebody doing studies like that. Like I said, I always like to hear what he's doing. It's interesting, and it is nice to know that, yeah, if you're trying to get into these AI overviews and answers, get yourself cited in Wikipedia. There's obviously places you can buy that. There's ways that you can actually become a Wikipedia editor. I happen to be one. Go figure, right? I took some training, took a course, and I learned how to basically not get erased in Wikipedia, because that's the hardest part. You have to build your reputation. You can't just be like a spammer. If you're trying to manipulate something in Wikipedia, right, to your favor, for your business, for your brand, for your personal brand, whatever you might be doing, you need to contribute to the ecosystem. Because if you do not contribute, they are very big on patrolling, kicking out, banning. Like, they've had to put in all of the quality control, because we all know you used to be able to go to Wikipedia and, delete a page, do whatever you wanted, and it would stay up there for a while because there wasn't enough like editors and volunteers helping to curate. So parts of Wikipedia would be like digitally vandalized and destroyed, and they'd have to be, reset. And that was a huge undertaking. So now it's almost nearly impossible to go to a page, make a change, and that change stays there with some new account or somebody who just randomly does it. Like, you truly have to have some sort of reputation to be able to edit that. But super powerful link there. Get yourself mentioned on Reddit. That's a super powerful link. And then what we talked about last week, of course, which is making sure on your website homepage which it looks like Squarespace just removed this, which is why I couldn't find it last week. The same as in claiming your profiles, your digital profiles, your social media, your citations, your listings to help build the brand at the data science level. So interesting stuff going on. So obviously we're open for Q&A here tonight. I spent the weekend updating Maxima bots because we had the feedback that some of the bots were breaking, because the model that we were using has now, what do we call it? Has now changed to completely work and function differently than it did just a few days ago, which is why Maxima bots wasn't working for people. So I had to do a ton of troubleshooting. And what's great now is I have the ability to actually monitor the activity of people using the bots and see when something goes wrong and what the parameters are. So I've built kind of like a debugging system. Mm-hmm. So I can monitor all of that. The analytics has been updated, and we've actually gotten a lot better. I was able to iron out a lot of the reasons why these reports fail. And what I have to explain to people here is essentially what we're trying to accomplish right now is when you're using the OpenAI API key, you're sending data across that API. Think of it like a rubber band. So it's going across this rubber band, and you really only get one contextual shot to give it everything. Because if you don't do it in one big perfect swoop, you have to then have some sort of chat interface, storage or memory programmed, just like ChatGPT on the front end. So your advantage of working with ChatGPT on the front end is it has this memory, it has this context. Now, the API has context too, but it doesn't work in the same way. And maybe Rob can jump in here and explain it better than I can, but it's essentially the ChatGPT interface that we all know and love, or Claude, or any of these. That is a different system because it has all this other information on you and historical chats to reference, and it has a vector database of all of your data. It knows everything about you, everything you've ever talked about, can search that stuff to help generate your next chat with it. It's a totally different beast than building software with the API on the back end. Did I explain that well, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, what's going on is, so when you use ChatGPT and you have your own, like it has all your chat logs, it creates a database, and basically it builds its own little vector database of your chats across everything and stores those. So when you ask questions, effectively it looks back to see if it's answered some of those questions before, I guess you would say, because it's searching its own database of what you talk to it with. With the API, that'd be like, if you think of the API, it's like when you call the operator somewhere, they only know what you talked about during that phone call, during that one chat. And that's kind of the API. So when you send something to the API and it sends it back, it refreshes. It's like, okay, that chat's over, hang up the phone. And when you do the API again, it's like picking up the phone. You got to send it all the information and what you want, get the information back, hang up the phone. Right. So that's the difference between the using the API versus using the ChatGPT. There's pros and cons to both. The API is way more reliable once you build a system that you want to be continue or always do the same thing. The other way is good if you wanted to remember what you've talked about before. The problem with that is, then sometimes if you have, like, my chats will go from, genetic stuff that's going on to like doing what they call it, biohacking and health stuff, and then there'll be coding stuff, and there'll be stuff about like insurance and taxes, and then there'll be stuff about, what was the score of the game the other night across these three things. So it just gets them all. So then sometimes the problem with that is you may ask it a question and it's reading about the basketball game you asked about, and it, so then it actually can start to confuse itself the more history it has, unfortunately, is what I've noticed when I'm using it. So.
You're polluting its knowledge base, essentially, whereas we're trying to keep it pure as possible.
Yeah.
Like if this is water, your ChatGPT is real murky, muddy water, whereas this OpenAI is like the Brita filter. It's pure, it's focused, it's not all the other context. So
yeah, basically,
it's challenging because we're sending over the API with all the intelligence files that are being loaded into these Maxima bots. I did not mean to go to Manus. I wanted to go to Maxima bots. We're taking 50 to 60% of the entire token, right? There's all these AIs run on tokens. That whole contextual amount, right? The corpus or the body of text that we can send over. We're taking up 50 to 60% of that in the call over to AI. And then it's returning, it's like 16,000 tokens worth. I don't know how many words that is. We'd have to ask, but it's got a very set chunk that it can return. So it's like that transaction, there's limits on those transactions. We can't break those transaction limits because then your software breaks, your API fails. So we've had to be careful about the amount of data that's traveling. We've had to be careful about, the speed at which it travels and the tier you might be using. We've had to be careful about the file formats. And I think you guys know this. You'll know it more hanging out with us, but there are times with AI to, use a markdown file or use JSON prompt versus just a natural written prompt to get the structural output that you want. So it's not doing something it's not supposed to be doing. It has a true coded template to follow. So there are more powerful files for certain scenarios than there are files that cause issues. Like we have a couple PDFs here in our intelligence, and some of our bots output PDFs. PDFs are amazing in one sense because they're this encapsulated data that can't really change and is always the same wherever it goes, but AI's got to parse it. So depending on the parser it's using and how it has that set up and how it interprets that PDF, like it can fail in the interpretation or in the parsing of a PDF. So maybe at times PDFs are a bad idea and you have to have, again, Markdown or JSON schema or just another format. And there's times where Excel spreadsheets are great and times that they're terrible. So we've been really figuring out all this stuff. And the reason I gave the rubber band analogy is what I'm doing, because I'm not a coder, right, is I'm A/B testing. I'm constantly being like, all right, I'm going to give it a little more, a little bit less, a little bit more, a little bit less. So I'm stretching this rubber band, the API call back and forth, trying to find the Goldilocks for you guys so that you don't have to waste your time ever doing that, because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of headache, it's a lot of troubleshooting, and it's hard. I'm not going to be honest, it's not fun, but I know once we find that like Goldilocks area, then our bots work. Then you guys get the instant deliverables, and then we can have so much fun. So a lot of the troubles we had last week have been ironed out. This is not a perfect system. It will never be a perfect system because it's vibe coded, right? It's not our dev team and Rob haven't done or taken this yet. At some point, we will, like we just talked about. I think at some point you get it off the AI platforms and you take full control, but we're learning so much. The reason I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with you guys and show you like that I'm building these, back-end dashboards to see how the software is being used and to see how often a bot fails. And again, I'm paying attention to the success rate. Like my goal for you guys, I want to get Maxima bots to, 95% or whatever, where we don't have bots that don't work anymore. We now have the perfect curated library where we added is everything that we ever wanted and we got rid of everything that didn't work. And now you guys have this just amazing resource where you can just come in here and pound these things out. And we're not going to, Rob and I have said this before, but I'll say it again. We're not going to, on the Maxima bots, put in the full-blown accounts because a lot of you agency owners, a lot of you digital marketers, you have teams and team members all around the world. I do too, right? Rob does too as well. So it's like we understand there might be other people that need to use this tool. So we verify your email address with the software. And then, like we've suggested and we'll continue to suggest, just give your different team members an API key to use these bots. And then you know when to cut them off. You know who's using what. You have total control. And they can just come to the Maxima Bots website and output any of the reports that you guys are looking for. So another final thing that I learned in this that I wanted to share with you guys, so let's actually use a bot, is even though Content Maxima exports the same 6 files every single time, even though they're all formatted precisely the same, and Rob helped me code and engineer them so that they all come out the same way every single time, the actual contents within those files drastically changes. So I had run into a situation over the weekend where I was using like tree service as an example, and then I started using window installation as an example. And window installation has way more text, longer keywords, right? Long tail keywords, long tail variations, whatever you want to call them. It just has way more words in its data files. So its data files were 30-40% more than the tree service. And I just thought that was interesting too, to think that here we are building intelligence files and the size can drastically change so much. And it's not something that we can control because it's literally based off of the industry and the niche. And so I've never thought about that before, but it's like when you're harvesting data, even if you're using the same bucket to get that data, what you harvest has different densities. If I'm picking up, lead, it's heavier than styrofoam, right? So think about that. If I put lead in my bucket, it's super heavy. If I put styrofoam in my bucket, it's super light. It's the same bucket, but the density is there. So I had never thought about that. And Rob, I don't know if you have. You probably have. You probably think about this stuff all the time.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but not as something as you're talking, though, something we might want to think about too as we continue to build these out is we provide the files for the users, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then provide the same files for the bot in a different format.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
It does make sense.
Provide it for the bot and make them all in JSON instead of transcribing them into Excel and human readable.
Yes.
And then that way we're not transcribing to human readable and then the bot having to transcribe it to, I don't know what that would entail, but it's just an idea I just thought of.
I'm playing around with that a little bit right now because in order to get some of these spreadsheet outputs to be precisely the way, it's kind of like you have to interject in natural language prompting. You have to interject the JSON schema to say, hey, here's all your instructions and all, and then here's your template that you're going to follow. And so it's it's similar to what you're talking about. Like you kind of toggle back and forth of, depending on who you're talking to, what language.
Yeah.
So I also will mention that now that the 4.0 model is gone and we're using 4.1 at the moment, I have added a toggle so that we can force specific bots to use specific models. That way we can always make sure they work. But I will say it's a little bit slower. So before I was getting files in, 30, 60, 90 seconds. Now I'd say it could take, depending on the report you're running, it could take 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, especially depending on your niche. Again, that Windows installation example, that one took a while because it has so much more context it has to analyze. And you'll see most of the wait time is not in the generation. It's in the processing. So a lot of the errors I was hitting and as I was learning in vibe coding this, a lot of the errors that I've been causing OpenAI have actually been super extreme mathematical calculation issues. Like it hasn't been able to consider all of the things I'm asking it to consider. Because again, I have in the prompts engineering for each of these bots when to reference the different files, right? So that you guys don't even have to ever think about that. It's like, oh, you need who are we talking to? Oh, we're going to go to the personas file. And what are we talking about? Oh, over here, we're going to look at the words that you talk about when we talk about that thing. And oh, by the way, what tone is that in? So it's constantly bouncing the intelligence files and using the strength of each file to get you guys these really good outputs. So let me download this. And I just want to show that now, and I can explain this. I couldn't explain this before. I've gotten a lot better. The output you get out of our bots, the end product, the capacity of that end product might vary slightly for the exact reason I'm describing to you, is that each industry and niche takes up a different amount of context. So the AI's ability to output more information in a less complex industry and niche, something less complicated with not less length in the words and language that are in that subject matter. It'll do more entries for you when it outputs, whereas if it's a more complex, longer tail, bigger vocabulary words, you're eating up more of that context, it won't do as many. So this one's on zero trust networks. Let's see how many it outputted. Yeah, so it was able to output 67 in the money mapper, which we were trying to get this to consistently output 100 at a time. And I was trying to, because again, I was inspired by Susan, everyone should thank Susan for this. I was trying to mimic her output with everything I was doing. And the reason I couldn't mimic her output, and these are what you find out when you do this stuff, is what I just said to you, is that each subject matter, each industry, each niche has its, own cost in tokens. And based on that cost, because we're doing this one API call out and then you get back the plan, the length of the plan changes each time based on how much you put in and how much it was able to give back to you. So that push and pull is an important concept in learning how to use AI and APIs and plan strategies out. And if you ever need a bigger strategy, you might have to do these things twice, right? Or 3 times. And I think eventually one day, not going to make any promises, but one day when we have all of these bots working perfectly for you guys, then there's the opportunity to build the workflows that everybody else is building now. But again, they're not doing it right because they're not paying attention to the training aspect of it. They're allowing you to link things together now. I hope that we'll be able to allow you guys to build these super trained bots in whatever subject matter area they need to be, and you guys could then link them together. So you might say, hey, I need one of these money mapper outlines, and I need the social media posts, and I need a go-to-market plan, and I need a press release. And could you just imagine being able to kind of click and drag all of the tasks that you want it to do, or sequence all of the tasks you want it to do, and it uses those intelligence files and it just does it all for you automatically. Like, we're going to get there one day. We're a lot closer than you might think. We're nowhere near there now. Maxima Bots is kicking my butt. And in order to get this into a more stable, more helpful form, eventually it's got to be handed over to Rob and team. And again, we got to work on the models and stuff, because I think it's going to continuously give us headaches as OpenAI changes their models. And then here's the other thought. People say, well, when are you going to do Claude? And when are you going to do Grok? And when are you going to do Gemini? Can you imagine? Rob's struggling with one of these tech companies right now and the amount of changes that they're making and how fast the AI is progressing. Can you imagine if you all of a sudden your software supports 20 different AIs, and then those 20 AIs, they each have 5 different models apiece, and each model has different calls that it has to make. And there's a company out there, the Open Router, which allows you to route and port these different AIs. And there's especially good if you want to use free models. I believe there's something like 26 free AI models out there right now. Big ones being like Llama. Everybody's heard of that from like Meta. But in order to work with them all, it's a chore, right? Because you have to work with the one AI a specific way, and then each of its models in a different way. And all of that is different from the next AI company. So we go with what we know. We go with what's working. We try to simplify it. It's horribly complex. It's progressing like a snowball, runaway train, however you want to put it. So those are like the challenges we're facing. But all that being said, we're super proud of where this is at right now, because the amount of value it can give you guys is endless. And again, I'm trying to be this transparent and showing you all of this because we can turn this into whatever you want it to be. And all of the lessons that we've learned from doing this, we can run off and do something and pop something else. And this is just the beginning. So I'm done on my soapbox. Rob, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I don't have anything additional.
Okay. And if we have any questions, Q&A, please. And we will get them answered. Let's see. I see one that just came up in chat. Katie Davis. When creating the Content Maxima files, GPT-5 model is not available in the dropdown. Its token cost is cheaper than 4.0. Will GPT-5 be available? Yes. So the reason GPT-5 is not available in the dropdown is OpenAI does not offer it yet. So they have not released the 5.1 into the API ecosystem yet. So developers like us can't even access it. So the second it's accessible, for sure, we'll make that available, and we'll try that not only for Content Maxima, but for the Maxima bots too. 100%, we want to be there to support you in any of the models that you want to use on Content Maxima. So that is why it's not there right now. Obviously, you can work with the 5 models in ChatGPT, the back and forth. I will note to you, Rob can note this as well, that they just fixed it. It was one of the worst things ever for a long period of time because it did not listen to you. It would, and Rob told the story a couple of weeks back where he asked it and it just went off on its own, and it wasn't even answering his questions. It wasn't paying attention to what he said. It was trying to interpret what you were asking and, I don't know, enhance it or make it better or understand it better. I don't know what it was doing, but it was never taking what you told it verbatim and working. So they had to fix that because that broke everything. And this is why 5 isn't out yet. They're behind because the big GPT-5 release was a big flop. And as you noticed, there's a lot of these other tech companies that are claiming that they benchmark faster, better, higher. Like Gemini right now is on a roll. Like Google's crushing market right now. But they all ebb and flow. So some days you're up, some days you're down. We're still very confident in Content Maxima with OpenAI's data versus these other models for what we're doing. In the long run, like Rob and I have said, we will implement more models. I have a dream one day that if you really wanted to, wouldn't it be awesome if you could go into Content Maxima and export a report from every single model that there possibly was that's out there and find all of the overlaps and have the ultimate perfect blueprint for anything. This is how every AI bot, every AI on the model, or every AI on the market, understands this subject matter. You would basically just have the golden key because you'd be looking at, so much all at once. But that kind of level of data, we're talking, enterprise level processing. We're talking big token spends, big money, a lot of wait times, all that stuff, and a ton of programming that we just can't do that yet, nor do I think it's worth doing yet because of the AI race that's happening. All these models are changing so fast. You stick with the ones that are really good to you. So the reason we were sticking with 4.0 is it was reliable. 4.1 seems to be the place to be right now. I'm not totally happy that 4.0 has been, is being killed off. It's being nerfed for 4.1 and then eventually this push for 5. But
Part of the other reason 5 is not available is because when they first released it, they rewrote the whole API, and 5 was completely different than all the others. And then people started using it, and it wouldn't listen. So then they had to like turn it off. And I don't know if you're paying attention in ChatGPT in that version, for a while you had to go with 5, and there was no other option. You couldn't drop down and go back to 4.0 or anything.
Yeah, they wouldn't give you the legacy models. That was their big launch. Everyone was pissed and started jumping ship, which is why they brought it back.
Yeah, they lost a lot of market share because of that, because 5, it's a reasoning model. Well, by reasoning, what it does is it takes your question and then it tries to interpret what it thinks you thought you were trying to ask, and then answers the question that it thought you were thinking about asking, and doesn't actually answer directly what you asked. It's like, they probably didn't mean that. And then and you could see it in the, like it would tell you, here's what I think. It would show you kind of its reasoning box. And that's where I was catching. I'm like, that's not what I asked. And it would answer me questions, and it would tell me, no, that's not possible. I'm like, I didn't ask you if it was possible. I know it's possible. I've done it. And it's like, oh, well, we reasoned your question meant something different based on context that we add. Like, I'm like, I didn't add context. And that's why they had such a huge rollback and pulled 5 back and allowed the legacy models and all kinds of stuff. So they broke a whole bunch when they did 5. That was why they quickly went out with 5.1 to try to fix it. Because 5.1 came very quickly after 5, and they allowed all the legacy models to be picked as well.
And just now is when they're starting to pick off those legacy models to push it back into 5.
Yeah, so because they think they fixed it. I'm still we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding as people start to try to implement it again once they re-release it. But yeah, like we would send it a prompt, it would read the prompt, and it would interpret what it think we were trying to prompt, and it was like, what? This isn't even related at all to the question I asked or the prompt that we sent. So.
And one of the things they've been promising, and I was just talking to Rob about this before we hopped on live, they're offering the idea that the API, the GPT-5 API, will allow for like a continuous context, because it'll be agentic. It'll be this continuous context. So if I wanted to feed it data from now until next Thursday, 24/7, it would just continue to take it all. And then after it has all that data, then I could tell it to do something. As Rob and I were both just laughing to each other, like, there's going to be a limit to how much data it can take. There's going to be checkpoints and milestones and stops you're going to want to take, because if you just let AI just run with something, it's like that telephone game as kids, right? First person starts off, whispers a secret into the next kid's ear, goes down the line, and by the time it's to the last kid, it's totally unrelated to what the first person said. So that's kind of the fear of letting it go. I'm all for letting it go a little bit, but you have to take the baby steps. Even using an agentic vibe coding system like Manus on this app for Maxima bots, like, it's baby steps. I can only make a couple tweaks at a time, and I'm constantly backing up and creating milestones so that if I screw something up, which, believe me, it's not me screwing it up, it's the AI. But if something goes off the path, I can then restore what was working. So that's why it's just been extreme trial and error to get it to this point. But here we are, a lot more stable than ever. If your report doesn't generate for any reason the first time, just click the generate button again. I'd say try 2-3 times. If it's totally not working at that point, then obviously submit a ticket or vote, right? Every time it generates, we ask you thumbs up, thumbs down, how many stars, but that's just helping us curate these out. But yeah, it's in a much better state for you guys. It's much more stable. It's ready to work for you. And I'm really excited about it. So we've gotten some feedback so far. If any of you have more feedback, let us know. If you have questions that you want us to cover again tonight, please throw them in chat like Katie just did. One final thing I wanted to bring up is people are starting to ask a little bit about affiliate. So yes, you can sign up for affiliate. It's in the footer on contentmaxima.com. We are going to start working more closely with affiliates and coming up with strategies and helping you, have assets like graphics and digital assets so that you can, have some material to affiliate with. We got to build all that out. And a couple people have started to ask us if we would do like small group coaching, training, mastermind. I felt like it was a little early for that. I was shocked that people were asking, but if you have interest in working with Rob and I on your clients, your accounts, your brand, more than just a free Monday night Q&A session, right? You want us to act as fractional CMOs and really help you build brands and find success in what you're doing. We're going to consider that. Right now, schedule's a little tough. Time's a little limited for both of us. We're very busy at the moment, but we want to put it out there in the world and say we're open to the idea. It for sure will be an investment. It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be outrageous either, especially this early in the development of our software and community. But we need to get rid of the tire kickers. We need to find people who really want and respect the system that we've built here and want to use it to run their operation and to really integrate it into their SOPs and with their VAs and staff and teams and all that stuff. So if you are interested in that, please let us know. Go to like the contact page and click on the little guy in the bottom right and open a ticket and just let us know. Because again, we have several people asking, hey, can we start to work together a little bit? Can you help us on some projects, blah, 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 blah. So if we can put something together, if we can get a handful of you, I think we could make a really good impact. And obviously if there's a few more of you, it's easier for everybody from a cost perspective. You also have other people you can learn from. And what we have found, because Rob and I both were in masterminds before, you meet some great people. You're able to utilize each other's strengths and sometimes even each other's teams, right? Like you might have an employee that's really good at a specific marketing task or, I don't know, graphic designer or video editor or whatever. And I might have somebody else who's a really great copywriter, and we can trade tasks and trade hours and time. So we've gotten a lot of success out of masterminds. If you've ever done a mastermind, they're totally worth it. They are a commitment though. It's time, it's effort. So we're going to go into it cautiously right now because our number one goal is to continuously make Content Maxima the best it can be for you and show you how it's a framework that can build things like Maxima bots in your own world. And if you're not interested in building, then you'll just use Maxima bots because it's a couple clicks and you guys get exactly what you need from all the different bots that we have to offer. So let us know.
So anybody got any other questions, chats, comments, snide remarks? Make fun of my Grace t-shirt? Anything? I take it all. If not, heck,
are those sunglasses handy?
At least.
Yeah, it's all right. Short ones happen. I was while we'll wait a couple more minutes. People don't want to disconnect, that's fine. But yeah, I was just messing around with some of these other ones, like a market sizing calculator, like trying to, if you have a business, like address the total addressable market, right? The TAM, and figure out like which, I don't know, pockets of people to target and go after. There's some really cool bots in here, and they're all working much better. So you, Rob, not just these people, you need to spend some time in here too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Let's call it a night, guys. No questions. We appreciate those of you that showed up. Please go try Maxima bots. Please let us know what your projects are with Content Maxima, and we'll see y'all next week.
Yep. See you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.